So basketball wives, right? They've had this ongoing issue around colorism and OG, right? Firstly, I don't know why people... I do understand, and then I don't understand why people separate colorism too much
from racism. Races, yeah.
I feel like if you're of the same race, you can be colorist to one another. I feel like when you're not of that race, it's racism.
Do you think it's more black women that because I don't see any black men chat about colorism?
I see black men talk about it all the time.
Colorism?
Not in the sense of in that way, but being colorist, yes.
Because I feel like with us, sorry to cut you, but I feel like with us, we just identify it with race. So if a man says, light skinned man, but I wouldn't... in
terms of men themselves, like differentiating those two.
No. Yeah, I don't...
Not so much.
I've got brothers in that, and like even me, funny or not, if you don't want to believe it, I've got photos of me when I was light skinned when I was younger. I was proper light.
Yeah.
But... and as I got older, I got darker. It was the comments from some family, not all family, but some family members, like, "Oh, right, like you're using too much shea butter in him." You know, what's there, like, or he's gone dark, like, or his knuckles and that. It's all dirt. Like, I'll never forget my brethren's mum years ago when I was in school saying to me and my brethren that the dark skin patches on our arms and whatnot is dirt, and we need to really scrub it hard, and after that it will become more. And I was just like, raw. Looking back in it now,
I remember being asked if I bleached because my knuckles are darker than the rest of my hands. And I was like, "Did you bleach?" I was like, "You're wild. Like, you're actually mad." And I think that's why I've always associated people that no. Anyway.
Yeah. But sorry. Yeah, you were saying innit? You were saying about the colorism thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a topic since, let's say, the last season. Now this is a group of black women and Afro Latina women.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So it's quite an interesting mix in that sense. And I say that in the sense of to hear colorism become such a prominent topic, amongst the group of women where it probably shouldn't be taking place. But the issue is one of the things that this OG's from Nigeria. She is first generation in America. She was like a footballer, like on the women's football team. And she's obviously amongst these women who are like, not to say that they've got business ventures going on, but they're not in that. They're not.
Oh, them basketball wives, yeah.
Yeah, the one with Shawnee O'Neal.
Right. Yeah. I think the last time I watched that must have been 2008.
Oh wow!
Nice. So I was when Tammy Roman were in it, and Shawnee and Evelyn.
Yeah. Evelyn's still there. Shawnee's there. Tammy's not. Jennifer's there.
Jennifer. I remember Jennifer.
Oh God, what's her name? Jackie Christie. She's in it.
I think Dre was in there as well.
Dre's not in this one though.
Yeah.
Malaysia's there, Malaysia Pargo. So there's a few of them, but OG's new. So she's in there. She's like very cultured. She wants to share her culture with people, but part of their issues is they've done things like call her aggressive. Now OG's made statements of saying, I will break your jaw because it's a promise and I will do it. Like when it comes to confrontation. My personal belief is they're just scared of OG. So they believe she will do it. Whereas the difference is Evelyn might jump up and do a bit of rah-rah, but security will grab her. With OG, I think they're a little bit more fearful that OG might get to them. She's a professional football player, right?
Yeah.
But one of the ladies that's on there she's also dark-skinned, but she was saying to OG, but we're both the same colour, so how do you believe I can be colourist towards you? And OG made the point and said to her, well, I have more traditional African features. You have more Western features. So it's just different. Now, that topic I thought was interesting because I felt like it was something that was raised when, I can't remember the name of the man, but he made he poorly worded a statement trying to dismiss Meghan Markle and experiencing any racism. And he was like, if you look at her, I don't see a black woman. I just see a very beautiful woman. Did you hear that? Yeah, so he made that statement, right? And he was like, I see a very beautiful woman. It's not like when you look at Oprah, like you look at Oprah and you're like, oh God, yeah, she's black, right? So...
Hold on, he said this?
He said it, if I could find it.
He's
literally, he said it, yeah?
He's brave,
So, in him making that statement, it was as though to say, like, like there's a distinction between looking at a black woman and seeing a black woman and seeing somebody who resembles yourself, which is what I think people did way back in the day as to why divisions came about in terms of that relation about, what you look like. The same way I think I remember growing up and people would always be like, you look Jamaican, you look Caribbean. So I felt like there was always more of an open door in that sense than people who
But
for
we,
example, maybe to them didn't look Caribbean, and I was like, that to me is very stupid because I see people who just look different ways. Do you know what I mean? On
Yeah,
both
yeah,
sides,
yeah,
you get
yeah,
Caribbean
yeah.
people that could look African and vice versa. But then even down to the notion of where does that look like come from? Do you go like, where does that determination come from? Because even with OG's statement and her saying Kristen had Western features, there's black people with straight noses all over the gaff. Do you get what I mean? It's so to make that assumption that it's because your nose is smaller than mine or more narrow than mine, you know, you look more like these people.
You see, the thing is, yeah, no, what you're saying is true because it's like, and it's peak because this is why we got to really do. We know what. Before I get into that, we as black people and those that are allies or supporters of us, we really got to teach history, but we really got to teach science as well. I feel science is very important. When people start to understand genotypes and biology and whatnot, and if you was to even go to the Science Museum now, they will tell you life started in Africa. So essentially, what we're dealing with is like you can go to Africa now and you can point to every part of Africa, some points of Africa, yeah, some parts of Africa, sorry, like South Africa, for example, and look at the Sun Bushman, and their DNA on record, this is scientific proof, has known to have multiple and multiple strands of different races. Like you can
It's
look
like
at
the
this.
Eve gene.
Is that sorry?
Eve gene.
The Eve gene, yeah. Because you look at the Sun Bushman, you can see the Chinese man. You can definitely see the Asiatic Chinese or Asiatic Asian man there already. One thing you got to understand as well is majority of countries across the world, they're native people. Like when I mean native people, I'm not talking about the ones you see on Google Images. I'm talking about the ones that are hidden from Google Images, where you got to go into the poorest parts. They're all dark skinned. Like we had Eskimos living in Alaska, yeah, and Greenland that were dark just like me and you. Do you see where I'm coming from? So we got to understand that there's a perspective here, a perception that's being portrayed of what is what. And like you're saying, a lot of that colours and stuff that I do believe comes from slavery in a sense of, because back in the days, if you look at the 11th century, during the times of the Malian Empire, like Mansa Musa and whatnot, we were already trading with people in Japan and in places there. Like when Mansa Musa went on his expedition and was giving out gold everywhere to all these different lands and whatnot, he weren't doing it based upon I want to travel in. He didn't do it with an army in a sense like that, or he may have done it with a convoy or was it convoy they would say like a
Convoy.
convoy, yeah, like people around you obviously maybe armed. But he didn't go on this like how the Crusaders did in the 16th century, going on a crusade and killing people if they don't. He didn't do it like that because we were already connected. So essentially, a West African man wasn't saying I'm from West Africa. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
He weren't saying that, those from the East Africa are lighter skinned. And in fact, you can look at East Africans and you can see why their phenotypes will be a little bit more thinner, and because at the same time they're next to a desert. They're next to, and prior to those people, looking like that or living in the areas where we had the Sahara Desert, a lot of that stuff was savanna, grasslands. You know, ones there like so. Through climate, people's body changes. Like even us, our children. You see what it is? Your skin tone is different in the wintertime to it is in summer.
Yeah.
So naturally, you're going to have those changes. Now, if you look at the, what was I forgot I was going to make a point. But anyway, the point is what I'm trying to say is this, that black people come in all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
So the black people in South America, back during the Olmec civilization, were definitely different in terms of feature-wise to the black people in Asia. Although they may have come from similar migrating tribes, yes, their hair may be a bit more straighter because they're mixed in with the Asiatic, who's also a black person.
Yeah.
Dravidians that came from Southeast Africa went into India, which is basically called the Indus Valley. That's the definition of India. They migrated because of a flood. They're going to look and seem a bit... Do you see where I'm coming from? They're going to look more different and whatnot. So, but it's the colours in the argument for me right now and what I'm seeing. I just feel like there's a lot of a feminine aspect to it in terms of girls being beautiful, associating what beautiful is.
I think the reason that kind of comes into play is because it just makes me think back to, do you remember that magazine that came out and they deemed, I think black women were deemed as the ugliest of like races and genders, right?
When was that? That was years ago, wasn't it? That was
yeah, it was maybe like 6 or maybe a little bit more, a couple more years ago.
Yeah, I remember seeing something like that.
It was longer, but it wasn't that long ago. Do you get what I mean? And it's like, if you're dealing with a society that is seeing you in this way and treating you in this way, and then that's being perpetuated in music videos and in other things, because people are saying, well, we're going to tailor it to what people would want to see. You know, even down to, you'd get black people opening businesses and they'll be like, no, I want loads of white people on the advertisement because I want people to buy my product. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was that whole
100%,
notion.
100%.
So with that, it's like taking that into consideration and keeping that in mind, that this is the society that we are realistically still dealing with. The point that OG made struck with me because I've never thought of it in that way. I thought colorism was just a skin tone. Do you get what I mean? But when she pointed out the thing about features and how you're seen, I think that is very, very relevant, because when you see people who have more exotic features, the ways in which they've been treated is, we're picking and choosing what we like from you.
Even
and this is what we're adding. Literally, do you know what I mean? And it's like, we're picking and choosing what we like from you, and this is what we're going to deem now as the new beauty standard. Remember, years ago, it was the in thing, like when I say decades ago, it was the in thing to have a flat arse. No arse was the way to go. Nowadays, it's have a big arse. So it's like that beauty concept's consistently changing. No, but I think it's like, to me, there's been more of a migration of people in terms of people mixing with one another. And so these features are becoming more acceptable. Do you get what I mean? But it's like the subtleties in a sense, because it became an apple bun with Beyonce, where it was like, yeah, you've got a bun, but it's not elaborate. And then it moved to essentially big, which is where you're getting a lot of the girls getting butt injections done now. It's not so much just about the tone and the shape. Do you know what I mean? So I just think the more that society's integrated, the more that these things are becoming acceptable and the more they're becoming idealised. I think there's an issue with the beauty industry, full stop, with this idea of one look works.
But would you think... see, for me, and I know this may sound a bit mad, I just feel every industry, unless it's directly created and owned by us, is going to go against us naturally, because of the fact that we are the creators, we're the makers of it.
The only reason I disagree is because I feel like there's black people that are very much perpetuating that same ideal beauty standard out there, who are owning these businesses and are still pushing out there that...
On a very micro basis, cool. But I'm talking about, when I mean industries, I'm talking about, for example, Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I mean, by force right now, they probably could be hiring more darker skinned actors. But at the same time, that will fade out. Like you said, a new beauty standard will come in. And they will just completely change that. When it comes to even the beauty industry with, like, you know, the makeup lines and whatnot. And, you know, a shout out to Rihanna with the whole Fenty thing. I don't wear makeup. I don't know what makeup is in that kind of sense, you know. But I'm just saying in the sense of, I've seen that, well, some girls told me that, I'm kind of like, what's the fuss with Rihanna's thing? Why is it? Oh, no, because basically she's got different shades for X, Y, and Z. Well, I don't know. You can tell me.
I'm still wearing MAC, so I don't know. I can't help it. I haven't moved on. Just because I haven't found my Fenty shade. But to me, MAC was the one that initially was like, had more shades available. Shades of... What Rihanna's released has many shades, like across the board. Because you get a lot of people that are, let's say like, they'll be of lighter skin. So I was going to say names. Like, I was going to say one of my mates' complexions. But, like, she might have to mix two colours to get her tone right, because it will either be too ashy, where it's more of a pale white colour.
Right, okay.
Or it will be too brown, where she's not brown. So it's like trying to find that happy medium. When you look at... I think what Rihanna's done is release something that has done that.
Yeah. And there is people that are probably pushing through those sort of barriers, but at the same time, it's in these industries, and I feel like the more we turn to, like, the more we tend to look at the narrative and say, what do we want for ourselves individually? Because a Chinaman will get up and say, no, our beauty standard is this, or our standard is X, Y, and Z, and they will create their own. They'll create their own standard of food and cuisines. They'll create their own standard of dress sense and
we
language.
Say that, but then when you look at their beauty standard, it's still very Western.
That's true.
Things
that is
like
true.
Getting their eyes drawn wider,
That's true.
And
Yeah.
having like it's still very it's still that
it's still
ideology.
Western,
and I
yeah.
say Western, I don't even know what I'm referring to, but
And-
it's still that ideology.
And that's the problem. It's like, I feel we need to understand by default, we're never going to be, in their eyes and their industries, catered for until we start catering for ourselves. So when we start to do things like, for example, you know, say that, look, you know, we're going to have our own days, our own natural hair days, our own actual celebrated holidays that are done within our own communities and whatnot. And again, those things can only be prevalent when we have an economic base. I don't even want to go into that because I've been saying that for years, but, you know.
But I do think as well, it is about, I guess, the black community cleaning up house.
100%.
It's still, because that is still very relevant. Like, we're still giving people reasons to say stupid things.
Yeah, like.
Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, well, black people, kill black people, kill black people. If Black Lives Matter, why would you be doing that? That's still a relevant factor. Do you get what I mean? Because you are being killed by other people who are happy to do it for free in very creative ways. Why are you still killing yourselves? Do you get what I mean?
It's true.
And then even down to, and I obviously say that knowing that that's not every black person, but even down to the case of, for example, the whole colorist aspect, that's still very prominent in the black community. Everybody will comment on complexion most times. Do you get what I mean? Most places you go, if these aren't new people you've met, especially I think within families it happens the most, people will comment. And they will put, people comment, and it's not so much in terms of what they're saying, because I think people feel like, oh, I can comment and say things, but it's like, it's the tone in which you're saying something is still implying something by it. So I can tell whether you think it's... Do you get what I mean? It's not always the words that leave in your mouth, it's how you're saying it.
And it could be something as small as like, you know what? I'll come back from Ghana, and it's like one auntie may be like, oh, you're dark. Like, that alone already could be seen as...
I'm telling you, yeah.
You know what
Do you know what it is? I have recently had an experience with somebody, and bless her, she's lovely, like, but I think she's mixed race. Her mum is white, her dad's black. I don't know too much about her background outside of that. But what I do know is she made a passing comment to me, and it rattled me for days, because she said it in front of my niece who's mixed race, and I thought, there's no way in hell you're going to start making my niece think this wayward way that you're thinking and you believe is normal and you're happy to perpetuate. So we were talking about, this thing's come out about, you know, black girls wearing, you know, you need to wear sunblock. Well, not black girls, black people. Like, wear sun protection. You do need sun protection. Doesn't matter if you have more melanin. So she's talking about this, and I'm like, yeah, I never used to wear it. And I was telling her about my experience of going to get a facial from... It's a shop in... And the only reason why I'm going to say this is because they're black-owned shop, right? Black-owned shop in Chigwell or Redbridge. And they're basically, so they're lovely there. So I got a facial there from a girl called Stacey, and she was talking to me about the fact that she could tell that I didn't wear sun protection. And she was saying that's why your face is a different colour to the rest of your body. I can tell that, but she was saying for her it's the opposite. Her face is lighter than the rest of her body. She was like, my face doesn't tan, right? So we're having this conversation, and she obviously enlightened me on something. So we're talking about this in this other setting now. I'm speaking to somebody completely different. And my niece is there, and this girl says, yeah, no, because I tan. She goes, she doesn't tan. And I was like, well, my niece tans, but she goes very olive. You know, she goes an olive tone. She doesn't have the golden sun-kissed look that I guess, you know, that people would assume she might have sometimes. So I was like, yeah, I said, I've only ever really been sun-kissed in certain countries. So I said, it depends on where I go and what the sun's like. And she goes, oh, yeah, because people like you run away from the sun, innit? And I was so like... Yeah, I had to take a minute, and I was like, sorry, no, I don't run from the sun. I do get in the water. I actually stay in the water. I don't really care what colour my skin goes when I'm out there. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying myself. But it rattled me so much. And when she realised what she had said potentially could have offended me, she didn't want to go anywhere near the subject. So she kept kind of, you know, when someone puts up a bit of a wall, so it makes it hard for you to talk about it. I'm going to have to make us both very uncomfortable where this could become an argument, because you're clearly demonstrating to me you don't want to talk about this no more. But I think the thing that worried me most in that interaction was we could have had a real conversation there, because I'm not going to bite your head off for what you said. I know why you maybe believe what you're saying. Somebody's made you believe this. I know it's not me, but whoever's made you. Do you know what I mean? But someone's made you believe that this is the case. And as a dark-skinned woman, I care about getting darker. I'm already dark-skinned. Like, what would my issue be? Do you get what I mean? Like, I don't have a complex there. I'm absolutely fine. So I think what bugged me for days was the lack of willingness to have that conversation, because then you have to defend what you're saying and why. I remember living with
It's
a
guilt.
girl. Yeah, and I even
It was
remember
guilt,
hearing
yeah.
a lady, I think she on a podcast, and they were talking about something that had been mentioned about a lady that, I think it was a rapper, and his girlfriend made a song and it was called Redbone and something like that, and people were getting annoyed with her saying you can't say that, like saying he chose the Redbone or he wants the Redbone, perpetuating colorism again. And
Redbone, ain't that childish Gambino?
no, so it's not that song.
Oh,
But
okay, cool.
the term is used for, I think, like as skin girls. It's an American term for it.
Yeah.
So when she made this comment, this other woman was talking. She was like, "Well, I didn't speak on it because I'm not gonna speak down about my complexion to make a point, even though I don't agree with colorism." And I'm like, why do people have this notion? Like, as a dark-skinned black woman, I do not want you to speak ill of your own complexion. Love it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. Don't put me above you, because I'm never gonna put you above me. And that's not in a sense to say that there has to be animosity there. But it's like, why can't you love you and I love me and we both be fine? Why does it have to be an issue? And I feel like it's the same issue that feeds into race. Why can't we be different and it be okay? Do you know what I mean?
Do you feel like we create these micro topics within the main topic in order to kind of deal with the comfort of a smaller issue than actually addressing the main issue? So do you feel like with colorism, do you feel like even with like, would you feel like we have these? I know they happen, but do you feel like we put a title on it, and then because I feel like essentially it all boils down to race, and again self-love. So if you are able to understand that, because I don't like to use the notion anymore that we were kings and queens, because we weren't all kings and queens. And there were some terrible kings, African kings, that put us in the situation we are in right now.
Yeah.
So that the kings and queens title, alright, if you're going to be master of yourself or king of yourself, cool, innit? But I'm not going to throw that fake fallacy out there that we're all kings and queens. We weren't. Some of us were average black men that had self-respect and self-love and self-care. Like, we came home and took care of our family. Vice versa with women. So I feel like sometimes we need to really focus on the broader picture, which is basically like, and it's something that I've been saying to my friend for a while, where we've been talking about, you know, going back to Africa and seeing how life could be there for us there and whatnot. And she was saying, yeah, like we should. And I was just like, yeah, it's mad, but obviously, you know, living there is something different. She goes, yeah, but you have to understand, you're going there for 2 weeks. You're going there for 3 weeks. If you was to stay there for the 30 years that you stayed here, you will be more accepted. Or not even like that. Not even like that. You'll find it more easier. Because a lot of people have to say, oh, when I go over there, they don't treat me as X, Y, and Z. Yeah, because they still see you as high value for that moment. Take yourself out of the 5-star hotel. Take yourself out of those rentals and cars you're getting. And dress like them and be around them. Because I've done it when I've gone to Ghana.
It's adjusting to the culture now.
Right, it's adjusting to the culture. You can't say that. But a Chinaman, Mr. Wu, will come from Wuhan with his whole entire family and build an entire Chinatown in Kenya. And he's there for 15 years. And he's not only has his kids learnt the language, but they're now in prominent positions in power. If they can do it so easily, regardless of how you say they see them, because they don't all get that treatment. You go to Ghana, I've seen videos of people when I've been Ghana, I've seen Chinese people getting battered up, getting more treated, I've seen it. Not on a consistent basis as big as obviously everyone else, but there are some parts where we don't have it, like, you know. So essentially, I feel like, you know, we look at these guys that would leave Africa to go to Europe and try and make it in any European country, but we've got 54 in our continent.
Yeah.
We can't sit here and feel like, oh, well, because I was born here, this must be here. Our parents came here for a reason.
Yeah.
And the reason was to get us a better life. Have we had that better life? Yeah, we have. Compared to them, we have.
Yeah.
Do we still experience the same racism issues and whatnot? Is the ladder getting higher for us or smaller for us? Or is there no ladder? And now we're just climbing a wall.
Yeah.
You know what's there? Like, yeah, there is. So the question you got to ask yourself is it worth climbing that wall? Like, back to Megan again. Oh, we've got a black woman inside the royal family. What does that do for black women? Because if the black woman has to be in a royal family, the British royal family, to raise your awareness of beauty, then you're fucked. You know where I'm coming from? Because when the royal family is dismantled, so is your aspect of beauty and your image of what a black woman's supposed to be.
To be honest, I don't know. I never saw Meghan Markle as like a beauty standard. I guess that comes from the idea, you know, like the way when Kate came in, it was like everything she wore, everything how she dressed. Like everyone was always speaking about her, what she looked like. But again, you know, that's an issue that people always speak about when it comes to women. Is people focus more on what they're wearing and what they look like than what they're actually standing for or saying.
Sorry to cut you. See with Kate, yeah, I'm not you know, I'm not even dissing her. But my girl it's an average girl. She's an average looking, like there's nothing.
But it's the way the media sensationalizes people. Because realistically, everybody is average. There's nobody that really is like crazy outstanding. Because what your preference is your preference. Do you get what I mean? And everyone's entitled to that. But for that reason, you're always going to have different views. You may have somebody that believes she is literally like the best looking woman on earth. They're entitled to that too. However, that standard is different for different people. The only difference is how the media sensationalizes you. And that was the issue with them sensationalizing Kate and making her someone that the nation wanted to love and was relatable in comparison to Meghan comes around and you're demonizing her. From everything is demonized. How can you talk about her holding her belly bump? I'm not being funny. If you've never seen a pregnant woman, maybe you could get away with being that ignorant to the idea of a woman holding her bump. But most pregnant women touch and rub and hold their bumps.
Yes, yours.
Kate was pictured doing the same poses, holding her bump when she was pregnant, and it was cradling. Oh, look, she's bonding with the baby. Meghan did it, and it was. What's wrong with her? What is she trying to prove? When you have clear conflictions like that, you know, I think at that point, if somebody still wants to dispute that there was no treatment or there was no issue with the treatment that Meghan received in comparison to Kate by the media, it's not worth a conversation.
It's...
You get what I mean? If something's that in your face and you're not willing to accept it, it's not worth the conversation.
You know, it's not. And you know what? It's what you're saying is true in the sense of, not that it's not worth the conversation, but it's like you sit there and you think to yourself, all right, cool, you know...
It's like talking, it's like what she did to Piers Morgan. You realise that you're saying a lot of stupid things that are ignorant, and I can either sit here and argue or dispute it with you or try to explain it to you. But when the papers are printed, right, from dates, they were printed in your face and you're still saying, I don't think she was treated any differently. She's making it out. She's being sensitive. At that point,
But you know what?
Do you know what I mean?
That can prove that Piers is slightly racist. To an extent. Because he's denying... a black person's racist account. So it's like, for example, it's like when it was all in your head. You know, when you sit down with someone and they're like, oh, I was racially abused, and they're like, I reckon it was all in your head. Are you sure it's that? Like, it could have just been... Essentially, what you're doing is you're denying the fact that... And he's the first one I always see on G&B to talk about, you know, race this, and we should, you know... And I think what's happening now, is, again, that whole uncomfortability of having this conversation. Now... Has it changed? No. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, no, it has, bro. People are more... The only thing... You see, you people need to understand the timeline, you know. Look at history. 60 years ago, did we have the same awareness when it came to race? Yes. 30 years before that, did we have the same awareness? Yes. 70 years ago, did we have the same awareness? Yes. We always have awareness. But there's no action. So to see that the light bulb is broken, you walk into your yard every day, you switch the light on, and you know this light ain't going to switch on because the bulb is broken. You're seeing that. You're like, right, bedroom comes over, the light ain't working yet. I've got to get a bulb.
Empty hope.
Right. Empty hope. Because you're sitting there and it's got to a point where that's been like that for a year or two. We've all been guilty of it. We've all had something we need to repair in our house or we need to sort out in our house. It's been like that for a while. And then we sit there, and sometimes we sit there and actually make excuses to other people into why it's not fixed. I was going to do it, but Christmas time came around. I couldn't want to spend the money on that.
Same reason why people make excuses for not fixing themselves.
Right, exactly. And that's, I feel like, really and truly, we really need to get to that stage now.
I do think though as well, like, the way people are still very ignorant. Like, I'm watching people online talk about, like, this is how outrageous is it that they treated Meghan this way. And then they're reposting this dumbass meme of her baby Archie, her holding the baby Archie, and then saying, this is what baby Archie looks like, what the royal family see, and then they're putting it next to either a I saw one that was a dark skinned young black boy.
Oh yeah,
I
I've
saw
seen
one
it,
that was
yeah.
of Michael Blackson.
Yeah,
You're perpetuating
yeah.
the same
Same
foolishness.
thing, the same.
Like it's and to me it's mind blowing that you can think you're standing for a cause, and that's where I understand that you don't really understand what you're saying. You're just running with the crowd to some degree. You've seen injustice, you jumped on the train, and you're running without actually thinking about what you're doing.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
What you're doing is still trying to put out there in a sense to say that there is a problem with what the royal family are seeing. On top of that, I'm not being funny. Even people saying, "Oh, what did you think Archie was going to look like? Look at Meghan and look at Harry." It's a very stupid statement. I don't know. I come from a very like diverse color. Like we've got all different shades in my family. So to me, that is a very stupid comment to make, to believe that would be the case.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Even down to when you see like, there's been stories of black women giving birth to blonde hair, blue eyed, white babies.
Yes,
and
I was going to say
that
that
can happen. But you're still sitting there like, no, you know, of course the child's going to look like Meghan or Harry and going to be fair in complexion.
It shows you the threat level. How because it's so like, my brother the other day was like, he's like, bro, you see when I see Meghan, bro, if them lot are scared of Meghan, like to us Meghan's white. You know what's there, like, because of her complexion and whatnot. And I don't want to come across ignorant as well, but if they're worried about that, like if what my man said, Chucky said about, you know, Harry getting with someone like Spice, that would have been it for them. But the main thing is this, yeah, and you made a very good point about the memes, and it always links back to entertainment. We love an entertainment too much. So you've got the meme, that's entertainment. The train of injustice, it's entertainment. Everybody was out there last year, George Floyd, yeah, Black Lives Matter. But bro, like, how are we making Black Lives Matter in real life?
Or is it still to that degree in your everyday life? And that's why I think, to be honest, I don't get mad when everybody doesn't fight every cause, because I think every cause is not for everyone. It's not everyone's fight. I can't fight every single cause of injustice as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
Because did you get what I mean? You're spreading yourself too thin. It doesn't make sense.
You've got to prioritise which ones are more important.
When you prioritise the ones that are for you and that you feel most passionate about, go run with that. But what I think is frustrating is when people make very ignorant comments. And it's like, but they're going die hard and judging and, you know, judging everybody else that they feel like you should be doing. I remember somebody saying to me like, if you're not much, then what are you? And I thought, if only, and I haven't even listed here, like, if only I could tell you the things that I do, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
It like, embedded in the career that I work in, like, it's just, it's not, this is what I say, when sometimes I feel like it's not worth a conversation. Maybe it is worth the conversation, because I guess that's how people get educated and understand things better. But fighting injustice is not about proving to the next person that I'm doing enough. It's not about that. But I feel like people just need, if people just thought a little bit longer before posting things like that, because when I saw it, I just thought straight away, I was like, you're doing the same thing, you're perpetuating the same message that there is a problem with dark-skinned black people. And I think what OG stated, just going back to basketball, what OG stated, it's just interesting to me, because
it's a good point.
And then obviously that's happening, and they're both in America, right? What OG stated is there is a difference of what is seen as acceptable features, acceptable complexions, like, when you really get down to it, it can seem like we're kind of, that it's a navigation off the bigger issue. But I do think even the little things are relevant, because that's how microaggressions come into place. I remember people being more accepting of, you're an African kid, but you look Caribbean, so cool, you can chill with us. But do you know what? You see a friend that looks African, that we think looks African, can't chill with us. Yeah. She's not nice. Do you get what I mean? Like, and it's mad to think that these are black people who will still be infuriated over somebody of a different race saying the exact same thing that they said. It's not acceptable just because, you know?
No, you're right. And you see what you see literally, like, it's mad. I feel like, again, you know, like, what's these microaggressions, like you're saying, you know, it don't make sense. Like, you get people saying like, what point was I gonna make again? It's gone out my head. But basically, you know, why are we discussing, like you're saying, you know, why we got these memes up? You know, you got Michael Blackson, and even with him as a comedian, he does perpetrate that a lot about himself. And it's kind of like, I sit there and think to myself, brother, like, even though it's a joke, it's like, it's really peak, because...
No, but he reminds me of the bully kid at school. that starts to make fun of themselves. So that it's like it's a defense mechanism. So you can't take the piss out of me. I'm going to do it first.
Do you see where I'm coming from? Like, and we got to really address these situations more. And when I mean addressing it, the talking is cool. We can have a conversation like this, but the action behind it, I feel, needs to be more kind of taken when naturally you have to ask yourself and say, look, like, again, what am I teaching my children? And what am I teaching myself? You know? And when you're, again, it's this entertainment nonsense, this bollocks that just gets me mad because I'm seeing, I'm seeing people do, you know, they're on GM, I've seen these people on GM and Good Morning Britain, and they're just arguing. It's like, well, you're always falling into this trap of entertainment for them. God knows what they're really doing behind the scenes. This distraction is not on, you know, it's not a coincidence. It's definitely on purpose. 110%. They knew at one point she was going to speak. They knew, and even then they tried to probably provoke it, removing the security, removing all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I wish the best for them, but I need people to understand and know that and learn from the situation and say, look, like, don't be waiting for another royal prince to marry another black person or a coloured person, or I shouldn't even use that word, coloured, but like a person of a different culture, and then sit there and be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, have an EastEnders moment, you know? The entertainment situation is what's keeping us where we are right now. And I just feel it's just mad, but yeah. Anything else you want to say on Harry, Prince Harry and Meghan?
I don't know. I think I really do just. I'm not gonna lie. I'm happy for them. Like, I'm happy they've moved out. I'm happy they're doing their own thing. I'm happy they've persevered in that direction. Because I think the fact that they're so known and public and they've taken a stand. I think the only thing I've been curious about is how this is going to be wiped out of history, like decades down the line when it, you know, when that opportunity arises to kind of, you know, dial that down. It's kind of like how, you know, Bridgerton. Have you watched Bridgerton?
Why does it ring a bell?
So it's written by Shonda Rhimes. She's one of my faves, but she's got Bridgerton out now. It's on Netflix, and the queen in there is a black woman. I think she's actually mixed race, or of mixed heritage, and people were like, "Oh my God!" Like, she put a black queen there, but not realizing that the queen that she's representing was actually a black woman years ago.
Oh right, okay.
I think it was Queen Charlotte or something like that.
Oh yeah, Queen Charlotte. Yeah. That's right. actually our current queen. Sorry, the current queen. Because you're not mad. The current queen. That's Queen Victoria's great grandmother, isn't it?
And this is the thing, and people, it's like the lack of education around it, myself included, because I just didn't pay attention. I just thought, Shonda Rhimes, very cool. I didn't think nothing of it. Shonda Rhimes is black, so I just thought maybe she thought she would spruce it up a bit, because there's a lot more black people in Bridgerton than I recall ever seeing in a history book. Do you get what I mean? Not to say that a history books should have been based around that era or that period of time, but it's very easy to dial down the bits of history that you don't want people to hear about or know about. Same way I was speaking to somebody about the Maroons in Jamaica and how they didn't conform, and they you know, fled up into the mountains and they stayed there and they kept their traditions all these years later. And people were like, what, that group exists, that happened. All the things they don't want you to hear and they don't want you to think is possible or attainable are the things that they're going to hush. So I feel like with what they've done, as much as to me, they've taken a great stand in this day and in this time and to us now, are your great grandkids ever going to know this happened?
Yeah. That's it.
No.
Are they ever going to... And not only that as well, you also got to look at the fact of, you know, we're sitting here and we're having this discussion now about Prince Harry and Meghan. They have, but if Harry fully gets all these like, to a point now, he's just Harry. He's not even Prince Harry, he's just Harry now. Yeah, or used to be Prince Harry. How is his relationship with Meghan going to be? How is she going to see him now? Or how is he going to see her? Because he might look at her, and it is a realistic thing. I might be like, raw, like, you know, you took everything from me. I sacrificed everything for you. And she might look at him and be like, it's not worth it. And already you can already see the tabloids in 10 years' time if that happens. Meghan sucked him dry and now she's gone, or Meghan's agenda is now revealed, or whatever.
Oh, they'll definitely put a spin on it. Some sort of spin around anything that happens with him. Because already at the minute they're claiming that Meghan is the one that's dictating stuff, and they're basically trying to make it out like Harry don't know nothing and he's a bit of a klutz, and so Meghan is just doing and dictating and running the whole show.
Yeah. Harry was on... The man, they were smoking, bunning Zoots in LA, waking up with 7 girls in a room and that, sniffing coke like it was,
It's not even that. I feel like
clinics.
Harry made it clear that he was always trying to push out of that.
Right,
So he's been doing it his whole life.
His
It's
whole
nothing
life,
new.
yeah.
That's like the fact that they keep trying to make it seem like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. And I think that's why the focus is so heavily on Meghan. You know, to say that, oh, look at all these things that she's doing.
Yeah, it's
she's
deliberate.
making him
It's
do.
deliberate. It's deliberate. And you know what it is as well? You have to remember, before we finish here, one thing I've learned is they need to kill the image of any black woman being royal. So for them, hitting Meghan up so hard, it would... All right, cool. It'll bring the controversial topics. It'll keep the views up on some of these news channels. But also, it will show the black woman that we'll never accept you.
Yeah.
We'll never ever accept you. So, really and truly, we need to start looking at the Meghan and Harry situation and looking at who's your Meghan and Harry in your situation, your lifestyle, or why do you even care? Why do you care enough to watch them and hear them and feel sorry for them, but not feel sorry for your friend at work that's going through the same thing with her partner, or your cousin that has had those issues from growing up because you've been a lighter one, she's been a darker one, but then you haven't even had a conversation with her. Enough people have a conversation with Meghan now, you know. Oh, how do you feel? Oh my God! Oh, this is crazy. Da, 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 da. But have you had that with your brethren, though? Do you see where I'm coming from? Have you sat down with her to kind of say, right, like, I feel you?
Yeah, but I think this is something I picked up with, sorry to cut, with social media and things I see people post. People post all day about being empathetic and mental health is real, and, you know, all these things are very real, but you don't ever see them practice it. Well,
Never.
not everybody, but the majority of people, you don't see them actively practice it out in their day-to-day life. People want you to have that understanding of their emotional status as to why you've maybe not heard from them or not seen them, because they understand their situation. But you go do that same thing, immediately you're moving funny. They don't have time to figure out your situation, or even when you're trying to explain it, it's the comparative of, is this a big enough deal for me to understand why you've done that? When the reality is we're not the same people.
Yeah.
So what could be a big deal for you might not be for me, but vice versa. But it's just respecting that. And I think that's something that people are kind of so focused on, that image and how they present out there publicly. Nowadays, it's what everyone's social media is, how you present in it.